iPods. I got many of these. Oh my gosh, this one turned on. This wouldn't be a toasty video if I didn't spark some conversation in some TikTok that then led to this video being made. So the other day, I was on TikTok, right? Posted a video about, I think it was this Coach iPod case that I got off of Mercari not too long ago. I thought it was really cool, kind of stylish. It 1000% gives off that 2000s vibe because obviously it's from the 2000s. I just thought it looked really nice and I kind of liked it because I'm kind of in a phase where I like a bunch of older Coach stuff as well as older tech. It definitely gained some traction, that is for sure. And while I was showing off this funky little fella that needs to turn on, somebody dared to ask me in my comments, how do you add music to an iPod? So to which, obviously, I responded and I showed them how to put music on an iPod, which feels so crazy to say, at least, you know, to me. But then that video gained some traction and then somebody commented, how do I do it the other way around, like CDs to iPod? Oh, and of course, you know, I did. I showed them how to do that. But now I just feel old, but I'm 21, so. However, those videos, you know, they gained a lot of traction and I don't want to, you know, I'm not trying to take all the credit for it, but I've seemingly sparked a little bit of an interest in iPods again. And I am okay with this because iPods are freaking awesome. Now, obviously, you don't need 7 iPods to be happy, right? Just one is enough, or 2, or maybe 3. I've seen people on probably like Reddit or something try to justify owning multiple iPods by saying like, oh, one can be used for a playlist of this specific genre, and then this one can be used for a different genre, and then this one. You don't listen. If you're trying to justify something on Reddit, I think you have a problem, but you know, whatever works, right? I just have these because I like collecting older tech. I don't like calling these older. It's just something cool to me, you know? I'm gonna show you my iPods, tell you a little bit about why I even have these. Let's start with this thing though, because if you know iPods, you may have been looking at this and being like, what is this? This is not an iPod. It's not. This actually used to be my boyfriend's. He gave it to me years ago, just because it was something that was, you know, kind of sitting around, and I was kind of curious about it. Very obviously, this is not a real iPod. I even have a real nano right here. You can find these types of nanos on like AliExpress or TikTok Shop, or I'm pretty sure I've even seen these at Five Below. But what makes this one so interesting to me anyway is that it uses 30 pin instead of that chunky, you know what I mean, that cable. This thing uses 30 pin, like a real ass iPod. How'd they get away with that? I don't think this powers on. I mean, we can definitely try. Some of the iPods I've bought actually have been secondhand, and they've come with cables. However, I've yet to use them because this, I don't know if my camera can show how yellow this is. The point is, it's not the original shade. I don't think my camera will show that well enough though, but it's like slightly darker. This is the original iPod cable that I have been using since I was a kid. I don't know how this has remained intact, but it has, and it still charges all of my iPods without fail. I've yet to need these. I appreciate people selling iPods online and including these, because obviously not everyone's gonna have a 30 pin nowadays. Not me though. I'm built a bit different, as you can see by this ancient ass cable. But anyway, we will plug it in and see if it does turn on. But I just think it's fascinating that, oh, it's breathing. I don't know if this means anything. I'm gonna oh, please turn on the power. Are you, oh. Oh, it thinks it's connected to an, it's actually plugged into my Xbox, I'm not gonna lie. That's interesting though. I don't think there's anything on this. I have plugged this into a computer before. Pretty sure this is empty. Oh my god, whoa, I don't know what I just did. Does it circle? It does not. Hold up. This does not look like the interface I see on those dollar store type ones. I'm sorry. Is there anything, can I even, the middle button just doesn't work. Does anything work? Oh, obviously, going right will go down. Oh. Oh, is there music on this thing? Hold on. Oh, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Spotify. I'm sorry. Did I put something on here? Like years ago when I was looking at this? Because there's no way. There's something on here. What? What on earth is this? Can I get audio up in here? Hold on. Oh my god. RG Animation Studios? Well... Oh! Is this fucking... That's not where I was expecting this to go. Interesting. So this thing just has Crazy Frog on it. Oh my gosh. I don't comprehend this menu. Is it this? Am I insane? Let's go to music. But okay. Okay. So it seems that I did put music on this because there's a Jet Set Radio Future song on here, and I know damn well that that was not my boyfriend and that was me. I won't lie though, for a bootleg iPod, this is not a bad little interface, like, at all. I mean, shit. I didn't even think this thing worked anymore. Okay, well, that has been an interesting journey. I will give this one thing. It works. And also, this thing is so old, I don't even think it holds a charge. Do you think it will hold charge? Let's see. Okay. Yeah, that thing's a goner. So, does not hold a charge. But I don't actually know how old this is. And it's also, like I said, it has a 30-pin connector. So this thing is pretty freaking old. But that's cool. I guess it has a random time capsule of my music from whenever I had this. Onto the real iPods though. Let's start with these two. Because I don't really use this one. These two came together from Mercari. I mostly was just looking for a 3rd gen. But the person selling it was selling both of these, and I was like, oh, well, that's perfect. I love this. This, I believe, I really don't want to get it wrong. This is the one from 2005. This might be the 1st gen Nano. I think this is the 1st gen Nano. And I don't really use it that much. I don't even know if I ever reset it. Like, I don't know if there's music on this. I don't think I care enough to figure that out. It's a little itty bitty version of the iPod video, which is one of my favorite iPods. They have the same OS, right? It looks like this. It's just very tiny. They have that exact same look. It's just, you know, it's a nano. What's not to love? It is 2 gigabytes, which is a lot of music, so it still works. But yeah, I don't really use this one that much just because I mostly got it with this one, which we'll get to. But there's my little 2nd gen Nano. This iPod video though, this was my main iPod for such a long time when I got it. When I got it, it was loaded with salsa, which I love because I am half Puerto Rican. Fun fact about me. And I recall that the original owner of this iPod was a DJ, and I think there were recordings of like some of his live sessions as well on this thing. I archived some of it, but I don't remember how much I actually did archive because there was so much on this thing. However, for the longest time, this iPod held my entire CD collection. It's the 30 gigabyte model, and I love it to death. However, I did grow up with iPods, and it was not this one. So every time I use this beautiful iPod, there was something looming over me that was just missing, which was this fellow right here. But before I forget, I do want to mention I actually replaced the faceplate for this one. I have the original faceplate somewhere. Let me actually find it. I found it. This, there's a color difference here. This is the original faceplate for that iPod. I usually take apart like old Nintendo consoles or handhelds usually. So this was a whole new type of thing for me, but it was just, this was a little too scratched for me and I just couldn't handle it. It does have some scratches now because I have used this so much and I foolishly did not put a screen protector on it when I replaced it. However, it still looks very good. It's not yellowed like this one, and I'm pretty happy with how it looks, to be honest. My main CD player is also an iPod dock, and this kind of just stays in there and shuffles my CDs whenever I can't decide what to play. And also, it fits in that Coach case. This is my main iPod now. It is a 7th gen. It is the 168 gigabyte model, and the back is so reflective that I'm fearing it showing my face. However, I got a new case for it. This did come with a case from the original owner of it, and me honestly, I prefer iPod cases that have the screen cut out. This does not. But it was so scratched up, which is a good thing because the actual iPod is so not scratched. So this did a really good job. But I did want to show off the fact that this has like barely any scratches on it. So I got a new case for it off of AliExpress. Added some cute little stickers because I love stars. And the case came with this little like texture sticker thingy for the click wheel, which I love. This iPod was in such good condition. I was actually baffled that it wasn't like $300 because a lot of these models sell for that price. However, I don't remember how much I paid for it, but it was not that. What I missed so much while using this beautiful iPod video was the cover flow. The cover flow, let it load. The cover flow, once it loads the albums, is gorgeous. Cover flow, 100%, is like one of my favorite features. It's such a nothing feature, but it just makes the experience so much nicer for me. Me personally, I never just go to the albums tab, right? If I do, me personally, I rarely use the albums tab. I love that it shows the album covers on the side, right? But it's just not really my like cup of tea when you have cover flow. I absolutely love just scrolling past a bunch of my albums. I don't have my entire CD collection on here yet. I got a new MacBook and it didn't sync like any of my CDs, so I have to resync all of them before I go in and throw them on here. But I put a lot on here. I'm also kind of a weirdo and I do like buying songs on iTunes on the occasion. So fun little fact about me, some of these are iTunes music, but there's something so fun about just scrolling through my album covers and being like, oh, hell yeah, I'm gonna listen to Avril Lavigne today. I love cover flow. Like, is this not just a cooler way of selecting an album? Just being like, oh, I'm gonna look through. It's like I'm looking through records, but on a cute little thing. It's so cute. I love it. I also, again, this is just my personal nostalgia bias because I grew up with the later iPod models and not the older iPod models. I love the games that these came with. I've sunk in quite a bit of time playing solitaire on this, but you know what I also have sunk in a lot of time on? Freaking Vortex. iPod games. Oh my god. Now, when I had an iPod, right? I had the 5th gen iPod Nano, we'll get to her. I was not really in the know, I didn't have a laptop, right? Every time music was being put on my iPod, it was through my older sister, just dropping shit in there so that I could listen to it and have a good time. I was still a kid, right? I was a pretty young kid. I didn't know that iPods had games you could buy. I used my iPod a lot, right? I don't know what I was doing like 24/7 on my iPod Nano. Because like, you know, I only really had music on it and maybe some like Winx Club episodes. But if I knew I could play what was that, like Sims bowling? If I knew I could play Sonic the freaking Hedgehog on my iPod Nano, I would actually have never even thought about using this. And we'll get to this. I have yet to figure out, right, how to put games on my iPod. I know that it's possible. I know that there's a whole iPod click wheel preservation thing going on, but I just like, I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't figured out if it's even possible, because I'm pretty sure you need to like have purchased them already to throw them back on there. But you can't buy them anymore. And that's what makes me so like upset. I really want to play iPod click wheel games. I'm so curious, and it's killing me that I don't know how to do it. But Vortex was like the game. I loved this game. It was so much fun. But I know I would have had even more fun if I knew that there were more. But anyway, this is my pride and joy. This is my favorite iPod. I use it so much, and it brings me a lot of joy and nostalgia just seeing it exist, really. This thing is thrown in my bag every day when I go to school, and I love it so much. Anyway, the iPod Nano 3rd gen was the iPod that made me realize how much I wanted a 7th gen. Now, like I said, I got this with this one, right? And it was kind of alongside this one, my main at the time. And I'd throw like a few albums that I really liked onto this iPod and listen to it. And again, it has pretty much the same OS as the GOAT right there. But every time I used it, I was like, I absolutely love this OS. I love the cover flow. Everything I said that I love about this one, I had this one beforehand. But again, I really just wanted like this beautiful little iPod experience on a full-sized iPod. And these, like, my love for these two combined kind of is what made me buy the GOAT pod. However, I really like the color of this one. I think it's interesting that it's a product red product, but it is very clearly hot pink. I'm just a really big fan of this iPod. And again, it has that cover flow. It's so good. Very cutesy, very small. You know, I think this was the iPod Nano that was like kind of hated, but I don't know why yet. That is something I need to research later, because I'm kind of a fan of its little itty bittiness. It really is just a small version of the classic, and I think that's kind of cool. What is also cool is what I got yesterday as of recording this video. Yesterday, I received an order from Australia from a seller named Parts Plus Pods. This guy repairs iPods, right? There's a lot of iPod repair people on the internet. You can always send in an iPod to someone. They'll fix it for you depending on what the iPod is. The reason I say depending what the iPod is because no one in their right mind would repair an iPod Nano 4th or 5th gen. If you don't know, you're probably like, oh, why would no one want to repair this? Because do you see how freaking thin this thing is? It is, right, like with this Nano, you can pry off the top, right? You can pry it off, you can fix the battery that way. That's kind of how it is with like these two iPods as well. Same with the original Nano. But this, you have to like clink that shit out and yoink it out like that just to replace freaking whatever. But because it is so toothpick thin, the battery on these like to inflate, because, you know, age, it's probably bound to happen. So the batteries on these can inflate, which can basically break your iPod, because the only way to fix it is to replace it. But if it inflates, you can't really get it out of this. It'll pretty much be stuck there because you can't just pry it out. It's so itty bitty. And I think another way that you can do it is by deflating it, you know, poking it, and you're good. But besides that, even if you're not repairing the battery, it's just a nightmare to open. It's a nightmare to look at. I feel like if you're watching this video and you know about iPods, you know what I'm talking about. This thing sucks, but I love it. Oh, Toasty, why do you love it? Because I had this as a kid. I know that I just gassed up the 7th gen. That's because it's the most nostalgic and most convenient iPod to me. But what really gets my nostalgia going is this tiny thing. This was the iPod generation that I grew up with. I had the blue one. And it was my goat. I took it everywhere. It was always plugged in. I was always listening to music on it. And it was my favorite thing on the planet. It was so cool. I never used earbuds either. No. I bought this thing that I used as a kid, and it was supposed to arrive today, but it's like stuck in transit, so this is gonna be a whole separate video. But it was an iHome to go. It was like the Beats Pill speaker before I even knew what those were. You'd plug your iPod into it, zip it up like a little bag, and boom, you have a freaking iPod speaker. It was so cool. Just having it, because I felt like I had a mini boombox. It basically was. I had like a gorgeous Emerson blue boombox as well. That was like my favorite thing ever. I just loved music growing up, and it felt like a tiny version of that. And it was blue too. Guys, after purchasing a gray version of this speaker, today I saw a blue one being sold, new, never opened, with the most yellow ass packaging I've ever seen. And I was so tempted to buy it anyway, but I was like, I can't. I have my silver iPod, and the silver iHome to go will match it. Anyway, just that, the iHome to go and the iPod Nano 4th gen, that was my combo. That was my combo for life. The only reason I don't have that iPod anymore is because I was a clumsy little kid, and the connector in the iHome to go, I don't know what I did, but I think I just like wiggled it too hard, or I just like shoved it in there too hard. It broke the 30 pin in the iPod, and the iPod, it died. I was very, very devastated by that loss, because it was my homeboy. It was my goat. It was my child, basically. And it is very insane to have one now, because when I plug this in, I am literally like so careful with it. It's like an instinct. It's like I literally gotta be so careful with it. However, I've only had it for a day, right? I've already loaded so many albums on this thing. I'm tempted to load up those like Winx Club iTunes episodes that I was talking about, but they were on my older sister's Apple account, so I doubt I can find a way to even buy them and throw them on here. I've always just wanted to buy one for nostalgic purposes, and I am so glad that I was able to buy one peacefully, knowing that it had a new battery, and that spicy pillow battery probably won't happen for a very, very long time. So Parts Plus Pods is the GOAT for that, because I threw this thing in my bag today. It was so exciting. I used it while driving, like hooked it up to my car and everything. It's so cool. Of course, this silver 7th gen is still my favorite iPod, but this takes the cake for the nostalgia for sure. For me, obviously, if you couldn't tell, I grew up with the later iPods. And also, the cover flow is sideways. I love it. But anyway, there's one more iPod that's just kind of looming in the corner over here. So after little child me broke her iPod, I was very upset, because it was kind of my first like big girl technology kind of thing. I had a Game Boy Advance SP, and I had a Leapfrog, but my real like little piece of tech that made me feel super cool, like all of the freaking Disney Channel actors, was the iPod Nano. My older sister was getting a brand new iPod Touch, right? She was getting the iPod Touch 4th gen. So she decided to give me her old iPod Touch. I believe this is the 2nd or 3rd gen, but this is my childhood iPod. I never got rid of this one. It is amazing. I would have had the 4th gen, but I believe my older sister lost it in a move, and I just kind of never saw it again. That one had a lot more memories. It had like a lot of pictures and a lot of probably crazy stuff on there from when I was a kid. But that iPod's no longer gone. However, I'm very glad that I still have my first iPod Touch. Did it already die? It was charging at the start of this video. No. Okay, no, we're good. We're good. You know, we had to have that iPod silhouette background. This was the background I used as a kid. Ooh. It has the very like plasticky screen. So no, even though I dropped it like a million times, it never cracked because it's not glass. It's very scratched up though, that is for sure. This was the kind of boring era in hindsight is what I mean. It's the kind of boring iPod era before it was really like the baby's first iPhone type of thing. But it still had pretty much all the essentials. I had iHeartRadio on this thing. Music, I think this has a time capsule of like my middle school playlist because and it actually has my high school playlist, my 2020 playlist. We were all being very nostalgic in 2020, come on. But it does have a lot of my 2020 playlist, which is a little embarrassing. But yes, I love looking back on this iPod because cover flow. Now that is amazing. When I had this, again, cover flow was my thing 24/7. I don't know what it was about cover flow that just fascinated me as a kid, but I was just obsessed with it. But again, I mostly used this for music, but this was my introduction to YouTube because it had ye old YouTube app. I know this is not going to load, yeah, but this was how I discovered YouTube. I would watch Littlest Pet Shop videos on here all the time. I'd watch Minecraft videos on here all the time. Those Littlest Pet Shop videos went crazy. I should not have been watching them as a kid, but there they were. That beautiful featured tab. This is how I knew I wanted to be a YouTuber. Let's be real here. I didn't want to be a YouTuber. I just wanted to make YouTube videos. I remember going up to my sister and asking her, and I was like, hey, I found there's this app called YouTube on my iPod. I want to make videos. And my sister was like, you're crazy. But she did make me a YouTube account so that I could save my videos, make my little playlists, and this was my gateway to the internet at a very, very young age that I should not have been on the internet. But it was whatever, you know? Isn't that crazy? There's the featured most viewed today this week. It was such a simple time, and I love it. I love it so much. There's still iTunes on here. This thing's not connected to Wi-Fi, so I'm not even gonna bother with it. I thought it was interesting that this had voice memos when I was little because this does not have a microphone built in. However, now that it's been a while, I realize you could have just used like the Apple earbud microphone, and that's probably why it's there. Besides that, there are some games that are very, very long gone. They'd probably overheat this thing if I even tried to use them. I remember when the Game Center app looked like this. So cool. But I just think the iPod Touch was a very interesting time. At least for me. I was kind of growing up in the era where there were still like flip phones everywhere and MP3 players and all of that CD player, everything player goodness happening. But I was also there for the transition into just, oh, my phone can do everything. So it's very, very weird being nostalgic for stuff like this and also being nostalgic for like the older iPod Touch kind of thing. When I had this iPod Touch, I really wanted my sister's like silver flip phone because she had it bedazzled with diamonds and everything, and I was like, I want to be that. I want to be that girl when I grow up. I mean, I have a iPhone 13 Pro, so oh my god, that size difference is crazy. That's so insane. But yeah, this was basically like my introduction to YouTube. I listened to music. I'd 1,000,000% watch Winx Club on this thing. And you know how I listen to music on this thing? Because, oh, you thought little me used earbuds? No. the Cube. Now this is how I listen to music. My sister had that big ass Bose speaker with the remote that I see all the time on Mercari when I'm looking for iPod stuff, but this was mine. You couldn't even touch my iHome, I think it's called the Color Tunes. You couldn't even touch my iHome Color Tunes Cube. This was my combo. And this is the one from my childhood. These are both directly from my childhood as well, which makes this even better. You can see how yellow the top of this is. You can see there was a sticker right here. I remember it was an Energy Star sticker because I peeled that shit right off. But this would sit by my bed. It would light up at night because I was, I was afraid of the dark. What can I say? I was like 6. I don't know how old I was. I don't want to think about it. But I remember if I wasn't playing music on it, I'd literally just be squishing the speakers because I thought it was fun. It's still kind of fun. But this was literally, this was everything to me. I don't think it still lights up. We can sure as hell try. Let's see if you live. Well, it turns on. That's a good sign. Let's turn off that light. Ooh, sort of. It's definitely not as bright as it used to be. But I remember the idea was, it could change colors to whatever music you were playing. And this iPod, I'm literally so careful with these 30 pins. It's crazy. I throw that in there, right? This is a crazy setup. Let's play a banger. Let's do Funky Dealer from Jet Set Radio Future. Oh my gosh, it lives. It actually sounds way better than I thought it would. I remember the color, like there was an option for it to change along with the music. Oh, well that was fun while it lasted for like 2 minutes. So that was a cool little trip down memory lane. I don't think I have much else to say. I was really hoping to get that iHome to go, but that will have to wait a little bit. What else oh my god, yes! I don't think anything ever pissed me off more as a kid, right? I think the very first time that I was annoyed with how technology was evolving growing up was how iPods lost the click wheel. Because, I kind of grew up with these. Seeing this, or I guess more specifically the 5th generation, go to the 6th generation, that square, I don't think I've ever been a more pissed off 6-year-old ever. I was so annoyed because I remember thinking to myself, we have an iPod Touch. The wheel is the whole purpose. How did I get it as a little itty bitty toddler and not Apple? I guess the whole smart Apple iPod watch before Apple Watches were a thing was kind of cool, but then it led to the iPod Touch Mini, which I just didn't like at all. I thought it was such a pointless little device. I remember I had a friend that had that iPod Nano, and it was way after I kind of forgot about this one, right? And she showed me it, and I was like, what is that? And she was like, oh, it's an iPod Nano. I thought you had one. And I was like, that's no iPod Nano. That's a freaking bootleg iPod Touch. And I remember we had an argument about it. I'm pretty sure I was in the 4th grade too. But anyway, even though I kind of grew up at the end of the superior iPod click wheel era and the beginning of the iPod Touch era, I still have a lot of love for these. I use my iPods quite a bit, right? Obviously, I don't use all of these. I've already told you I mostly use this one, and I'm definitely using this one a lot more in the future. I'm most likely going to be flip-flopping between these two. But I just have a lot of love for MP3 players. I kind of want to get my hands on a Zune, and I kind of want to get my hands on a Walkman MP3 player. I think it'd be kind of cool. I don't think I'd use them as much as I love my iPods because I kind of just have that bias for the click wheel. I don't think anything can beat just doing this every single time you want to use your device. But yeah, that's kind of all I got to say. I had a lot of energy today, and I've been really into iPods recently. My TikTok has low-key become an iPod account until I find something else to move on to. But TLDR, I love these. These are the goats. This one's pretty cool. This one's also cool. I don't know what the hell this was. However, thank you for listening to my iPod ramble today. Please stay tuned for that iHome to go video. And if you're really into older tech like this, I guess I'll just say from like early 2000s, maybe even early 2010s if you're crazy, and even the late 90s, because that is kind of the era of tech that I really like and I still actively engage with. I have a lot of videos about like gaming handhelds and stuff from those eras, if you're interested. However, as I'm recording this, I just hit 3,000 subscribers, which is so freaking crazy to me. I can't believe that is a number that I get to see when I open my channel. So thank you guys so much for that. I feel a lot of joy in knowing that people just love listening to me talk for hours. But thank you so much for everyone that has subscribed. Thank you to everyone who's been watching my videos. I appreciate you a ton, and I can't wait to keep making more of these for you. I will see you guys next week for another strange video. Bye bye!